Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number one, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, what I'm actually going to do to play out the show to begin with is play a clip. So this hopefully will reach your screens now. And this is a clip from a chap called Joseph Green, and it's an alternative explanation for obstruction at the horizon. So in essence, we have been presented a couple of days ago, or maybe a week ago, with a boat, and this boat goes further than the suggested globe calculations would suggest that it should have curvature. It's beyond the horizon. But as you can probably see from this chap's legs, he's walking across a football field, and it has been suggested that these fields have a certain amount of relief for drainage. However, as you can probably see from this clip, we're getting up to about 3 foot of obstruction across the distance of a football field. So this would be my alternative explanation for obstruction at the horizon. Completely disappeared there, as you can see. And if somebody wants to suggest that this is curvature of the pitch itself, feel free to show me the calculations and measurements for that, as I absolutely and unequivocally disagree. There is no curvature seen in this footage. We are seeing a flat plane with a man disappearing from bottom up, legs first, as he goes towards the horizon and gets smaller. So, obstruction at the horizon, perspective. Simple enough answer. I think with that, I'll say my first introduction. So we are joined by Arwin. How you doing, Arwin? Good to have you.
Hello, Nathan. Good afternoon. I'm doing good.
Excellent. You probably didn't get to see that in the Hangout, but nonetheless, it played out to the audience.
Right. Yeah, sorry. I'm working currently on making a very clumsy-looking model to basically point out how I pretty much found scientific proof, I think so at least, that the Earth is not a spinning ball, based on my centrifuge concept, centrifugal force concept. And put that on screen, I hope. It's gonna look really shitty.
Don't worry, we'll have a look.
Right.
You're up.
So, you see that?
Yep, you're up. You're presented.
Right. So, what you're looking here is a very rough. I used Photoshop to do this, so it's not very good looking. Rough model of the globe Earth with an axis of rotation, which is the yellow line. The presumed gravitational pull, which are the arrows on the inside of the blue marble here that point to the center point of the Earth, and the centrifugal force, which are the arrows outside that oppose the axis of rotation as it basically as a tube surrounding the axis of rotation. And this this concept, which is the presumption of the spinning ball Earth model, will have all kinds of consequences. Namely, and I explained this before, that on the equator, the gravity opposes the centrifugal force in perfect equilibrium. It opposes each other, and that would cancel out the gravity somewhat, to some extent. The actual amount, I'm not even all that sure, because I'm not too sure like how much the centrifugal force would actually, how much force that would be. It has been assumed to me by Nick that it's just a tiny amount. If I got that correct, he said like, okay, the gravity is going to be like 720 opposing to the 1.5 that would be caused by the centrifugal force. But there's a slight dilemma. That is, when these forces do not oppose each other in perfect equilibrium, like in the same direction, which would be the case, for example, at a 45 degree, then that force from this, that centrifugal force is going to unbalance basically the forces of gravity, and it will push, as you can pretty much see from this model, it will push things towards the south, and leaving aside what that would do to the actual air mass that is on the earth and the water mass, all the non-solids objects on the surface of the earth, if it were a spinning ball, would have to then to stay in equilibrium, to stay straight up, which is a necessity for buildings to be firm and not to be unbalanced. They would have to tilt slightly towards the north to stay in equilibrium. Now, this amount that it would be required to tilt may not have to be all that much, because the centrifugal force is apparently, so they say, not that much compared to the forces of gravity, but it is some. And it would be a measurable amount that would have to be applied every time. Every time you build something, everywhere, in this case on the northern hemisphere, which is assumed to be the upper part of this ball model, it have to be everywhere. It have to tilt somewhat to the north to stay in equilibrium. And this is proof that the Earth is not a spinning ball, because, well, I don't think that that is really the case. I am here in the northern hemisphere in the Netherlands, which is definitely somewhere, I think, at 45-degree angle. I'm not all too sure. It's somewhere over there. And yeah, I don't think that the buildings here are tilted. So I think that's pretty much proof. And I think it does actually adhere to the scientific method, because there would be a way to disprove it. That is namely to measure the buildings and see if they're standing up straight or if they are indeed tilted, which would be a necessity, an absolute necessity. Now, people like Nick have been forwarding me with the concept that there is an Atvos effect, which supposedly proves, according to him, that there is a spin. But the funny thing is, this is only evidence, because the Atvos effect suggests that there is a force that counters the gravity when you go with the motion of the presumed spin of the Earth. But yeah, that could be something else. You don't have proof directly that it is the spin. And yeah, it does not counter
Hey
the
Ruhif, how you
fact
doing?
that buildings are not tilted, which would also be a necessity for it to be a spinning ball Earth. So I think
Hello
that,
Mark, how you doing? Good to have you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, yeah,
Hey Ruhif, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Good
Yes,
to have you
but
both.
my internet's pretty crap, so there we go.
No worries. I'm sure you've got something to say about all that. Ruhif, you go ahead. You were in first.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Arwen, have you done any calculations whatsoever?
nope. I left that to the ballers to do that for me.
Why didn't you
Nick
do
did a
it?
great job in trying to disprove my concept, and he brought forward some calculations. I didn't double check them because I really didn't much care for it. I just wanted to pretty much figure out if his baseline
don't
assumption
you-
would be correct or not, and I figured out that they wouldn't, because he tried to suggest that the force of the centrifugal force would be so little that it would be insignificant, basically, and that is not the case, because that's not how forces work, really. The force will still be there, especially if it is not in direct opposition of the gravity force, which would point directly to the center of the Earth
Yeah.
in this model. And the centrifugal force simply doesn't do that except on the equator. So,
Correct.
yes, which means that, well, there should be on spinning ball Earth a measurable force that would cause the equilibrium of objects, solid objects on the face of the Earth, to not point basically straight directly to the center point of the Earth, and thus
Yep.
at an angle.
Why can't you calculate that angle?
I could, I haven't yet. I'd need
Okay.
some assistance at that. Like,
I'm sure
well,
you
as
do.
is well known now, I haven't really went to a university. I misunderstood that concept. What a degree
Yeah,
was
but did you go
supposed
to
to
high
be.
school?
High school? I don't. It's not named the same here in the Netherlands.
From 12 years old to 18 years old.
Yes,
Okay.
but yeah, I could do some research and basically get the calculations right and everything. I could do
Okay.
that.
I did them today.
I haven't done it so
No,
so
Ruhiv's
far.
saying he's done them.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I've done them. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
'Cause we had a
Can
little
you share
chat
that with me?
last night. I can. One sec. Let's see if I can share my screen. There we go. All right, there they are. Can everyone see that? So the
You got those, Arwen?
first column is the latitude.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah. So the first column is the latitude. So you got the equator first. We'll go to 45 degrees actually. So at 45 degrees, the radius of the disk at that latitude is 4,500 kilometers wide. The acceleration in meters per second squared. So this figure is relative to gravity at 9.8. So we can already see that that's a really tiny percentage of gravity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got that.
Yep. And this number here, so if I split this acceleration of 0.0238, if I split that into its components, how can I describe it in words? If I split it into the components of up, so from your feet to your head,
Mm-hmm.
and sideways, meaning to your left or right. This number
Yes.
here is the acceleration left and right.
All right. Yes. Yeah, I
Yep.
think I get it. What you're suggesting.
Yeah.
It is basically the remnant of the force.
Well, the
That
components,
also
if
should be
I
then sideways, right? Because there is an upward force. Like if you split
this
up
is the
the
sideways,
direction
yeah.
of the centrifugal force, there should be an upward force and a sideward force, basically.
Yeah. And that's the
This
two
is also the
components,
sideward force. Since it is a 55 angle degree, then it should
45,
be
yeah.
evenly distributed.
Yeah. So it's
Right.
splitting this centrifugal force into up and sideways.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it's there.
Yeah.
And what would then cause the angle of equilibrium to be? That would be the question. How much would
Theoretically,
things have to
if
stand at an angle to keep perfectly straight up in relation to the forces to keep a balance?
I think it was 0.09 degrees or something. Hold on
All
one
right.
second. Um,
Sorry, can you say that again, Ruhiv? It was 0. Sorry, say that again.
0.09 degrees, I think. I'll work it out in a second. How do we do this again?
So that's like
Degree, sorry.
a 10th degree, roughly.
Yeah. Oops.
Hmm.
Right.
Interesting.
0.09 degrees. Yeah. But
All right.
and this is what I had a chat to the Rumpus about last night. The Earth is not a perfect sphere, so it's wider at the equator than it is at the poles. So the radius is larger at the equator than it is at the poles.
Has this been
All right.
peer reviewed?
That has the effect.
Now it has been peer reviewed by Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Peer reviewed. Just a
Sure,
joke.
whatever.
My apologies.
Yeah, very funny.
Yeah.
That
No,
has
but
the effect of
thank you for doing that research for me. Technically, it wouldn't really matter that much if it was oblate or round or pear-shaped, because at some point on that sphere or spheroid Earth, there would be a 45-degree angle, basically, and maybe the centrifugal force would be slightly bigger on that location or slightly smaller, but it would be there. And there would still be an outcome that would be in rough approximation to this.
no.
So it's going to
The fact
be
that the
there,
Earth,
no matter
the fact
what.
that the Earth is not a perfect sphere negates almost all of this effect.
Didn't catch the first bit. I caught negates all of that effect. Can you just say the first part of your
The
sentence
fact
again?
the fact that the Earth is not a perfect sphere negates pretty much all of this effect. Doesn't reduce it to zero, but it's
No, that doesn't work at all.
Just for the,
No.
I hope the audience
It's
caught it. He
exactly
said
that.
because
No,
the
no,
Earth is
the-
not
the
a
funny-
perfect sphere, that negates this effect. I think that's what he said.
I didn't hear Nathan.
I don't think the shape of the actual Earth is relevant to that's not even the right wording. It simply does not. You,
No, it
like a
does.
shape of the Earth does not negate the force. That's ridiculous. That's a false statement.
But it makes if you're at 45 degrees latitude,
Centrifugal force adheres to any shape.
Hold on, I want to hear this, Arwin.
All right.
if you're at 45 degrees latitude, the how do I say it? The exact tangent. Sorry, if you're at 45 degrees latitude and the Earth is not a perfect sphere, then the angle, the tangent you draw to the Earth, the actual ground, is not at 45 degrees because the Earth is not a perfect sphere.
What is the shape?
I can barely hear this. Your sound is really muffled, Ruif.
I think he said
Well, I've
because
got
the Earth
convection
isn't a
too as
perfect
well.
sphere, if you stand at the equator, you're not at a perfect 45 degrees. I think that's what he said.
Stand at 45 degrees latitude.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Because the Earth is not a perfect sphere, so it's wider at the equator, the tangent you draw to the ground at 45 degrees latitude is not actually at 45 degrees. It's a tiny, tiny bit different. And it
Yes.
negates most of this 0.09 degrees or point.
No, but
0.1
the
degrees.
funny thing is, negates most of it. That is not all of it. So
Yeah,
there
it makes
is something
It
there.
makes it truly, truly negligible. Like this
No,
point
it's
one
not.
of the
No, negligible does not apply. It is
what do you
there.
mean? This is all it's there.
Yeah, it's not negligible because equilibrium does not. Equilibrium is equilibrium. There's no such thing as negligible in this
What do you
case.
mean? You want to argue with Anthony about negligible?
Well,
What do you mean? Like negligible means very small in relation to something else. This number here is already very small.
It's measuring a degree, though, isn't it? I mean, it's measuring something that.
0.1 of a degree.
Right, so it's going to be a small number. It's limited in the amount of how high it can go in the first place, right? So it's going to be a small number. You're measuring it in degrees, so that means nothing.
Yeah, that's the number of degrees.
this is the same type of stance that if the globe of the heavens doesn't perfect, like if there's a slight mistake basically in the positioning in accordance to the model, that it's negligible. No, it doesn't fit. Negligible is not, it doesn't apply. It either
So
fits or it does not.
why did you bring up the heavens then? What was the point there?
Well, because it's the same kind of situation. When it doesn't really fit your model, then declaring that the difference, oh, it doesn't exactly fit the position or the angle, oh, that's just negligible. No, that is,
No,
it
do you not
means that
realize
it doesn't fit. It means that
there is
it's
inherent
incorrect.
error? There is inherent error in measuring stuff.
An apparent error, okay.
Inherent.
Well, that error is not mine.
Inherent.
Inherent, apparent.
Error.
Sorry, I think his statement was there's an inherent. What was the word you used?
Error in measuring.
There's an inherent
In measuring
measure.
anything.
There's an inherent error in measuring stuff. That's a pretty way out there statement, Ruhif.
Okay, so in
What are you
that
talking
case,
about?
measuring is really not that reliable. So math
Yeah,
is
that's what
not
he's saying.
No.
accurate. It's interesting.
What's the inherent error in measuring then, Ruhif?
Say again.
What is the inherent? Did you use? I couldn't quite hear. I'm sure you said error. There's an inherent error in measuring.
Yeah.
Well, what are you talking about exactly? I don't know. I don't follow.
Well, translating discrete units, in theory, on a continuous measurement in reality. Like, is something 1.50000 millimeters? There's only a degree of accuracy you can make when you measure something.
Yeah,
We're
but
not
we're
talking
not
in
really
millimeters.
referring to a distance here, now are we?
Hold on.
We're not really referring to a distance. We're referring to an angle in this case. So that
Yeah.
angle, if you take, say, a building that is, shall we say, 500 or 1,000 feet high, then that angle would eventually measure up and yield a significant amount of deviation that would be measurable.
You've got to scale it to the shithouse to actually see the discrepancy, though. How's my microphone now? Is that better?
Yeah, it's a
miles
lot better.
Thank
But
you. All right.
still, a 0.1 degree, taking this significantly, that is a measurable amount.
No, but then you take into account. Sorry, it is measurable, but then you take into account the imperfect shape of the Earth, and it becomes very, very close to zero.
No, but that does not adhere because that effect is different on the surface of the Earth depending on the angle. It doesn't really matter. There's going to be points where it's just very measurable. And as before, on the equator or very close to the equator, that amount's going to be so little that it might be negligible. And at
the
the
equator is
poles, the centrifugal force may be so little
No.
that it
Hold
will
on, I think you're
also
talking-
not have any
Zero.
Sorry
influence.
to
But
interrupt you both.
anywhere surrounding
Hold on,
that 45-degree angle, no matter the shape,
Sounds like you're
it's going to
talking
be
at,
significant.
You're talking at cross purposes. So correct me if I'm wrong, Ruhif. You're talking in theory on your model, correct?
On a sphere. Of course I am, yeah.
So in theory, on a sphere model, nothing to do with Earth here, just on a model, right?
On a perfect sphere, this 0.1 degrees would be in reality, yes.
Right. No,
That'd be
sorry,
the
nothing to do with
calculation.
reality. We're talking about your model. It's nothing to do with
Yep.
reality. It's just a model.
No, but his isn't the perfect sphere. That's
Sorry, we're talking about
Okay.
models of spheres here. Let's just get this absolutely clear for the audience. At no point was Ruhif talking about Earth. He was talking about his theoretical model of a sphere. Nothing to do with Earth, just to make that
Would you
clear.
like me to
Arwin is
model it
talking
more
about
accurately
measuring
with
stuff on Earth.
the bigger radius of the equator.
Sorry, do you have proof of that?
Is there a picture of this Earth?
Hold on.
That,
Ruhif, do you have proof of that?
Proof of what?
That assertion you just made about the equator.
That it is wider?
Yes, do you have proof of that?
No, I haven't measured it.
Right, so we are talking absolutely unequivocally about a theoretical model of a sphere, and Ruhif in no way is referencing anything to do with Earth at this point. He's not talking about Earth, he's talking about a model of
Let's go back to the scientific method then, Nathan, and see if my model matches reality.
No. Reality is something you haven't mentioned yet. You've just talked about a theoretical model of a sphere.
Yeah. Let's see if observations match reality.
Yeah, we could do that going forward. But we've already established that having had 2,000 years of established faith in this assertion, you have no scientific proof of it, Ruhif. So we could do it going forward, But
No.
given the fact that you have had 2,000 years and the entire body of science to back this assertion up, I'm going to say, nah, I'm not that interested going forward. What evidence do you have now to make that assertion?
Now.
Yeah,
You
now.
get really nasty when you're pissy, Nathan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's
let's
really
not worry
funny.
about how I'm
Ruiz-
talking. Let's worry about what proof you have to
Hang on
back
a
that
second.
assertion.
Hey,
Where
if you
is-
want proof, then find me that all buildings on the northern hemisphere, or in your case, in the southern hemisphere, where the same effect would apply, that they are slightly tilted, which would be roughly 0.1 degrees, roughly. Could
No, I
be
just said
maybe a
that
little bit
in
less,
reality,
maybe a little bit
in
less,
reality, it'd
maybe
be very close to 0.
0.05 degrees, something like that. It would be somewhere in that direction, but it would still be measurable, especially with the very tall buildings. So
No, I think
give
it'll
me
be
proof
around
that
about
that is the
quarter.
case, and then you have evidence, not proof, evidence that it might actually be a spinning ball, because then the model would work out with the forces.
So how are we going to measure the tilt of buildings?
Well, ask the architects and
Just to
ask the
correct
builders.
English, it's
That's a good point.
architect.
So
I
we
know
could
English
ask
because I
the
hear it first language.
architects. Hi, Arev. How you
Architect,
doing?
yeah.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Arev?
Hang on, I can't share.
But I don't think that you will find that evidence, and that's why I'm gonna call that I found proof that it's not a spinning ball, not evidence, proof. Because I don't think you can disprove that this is the case.
Why does
Do we
NASA
have to
still
talk about
keep
proof again?
shooting out blue balls if they're not perfect balls?
What are you
Yeah,
talking
because
about?
NASA's lying, but that's not relevant in this case. We're now basically
Yeah,
trying to prove and
but
disprove the
according,
model. We're just disproving the model based on measurable things on the Earth, which we can actually do. We don't have to trust a third party to provide us with images that suggest it is a ball, because that's not proof. In this case, we can prove it based on actually working out how the model should be, what the forces would be, what the
Nathan,
consequences
are you
would
going to
be
jump on
of the
Darwin for
forces that
invoking a
would
model?
be absolutely necessary for the model to work in reality.
Just talking about models, man.
Let's get back to the model. Yeah,
Meaningless
let's get
stuff,
back to
really.
this scientific proof. So you've said before now, when we pulled you up on the, science can't prove anything, you go, all right, prove it according to the scientific method. So let's go back
Yeah.
to this Rochester page and talk about the scientific method.
Right,
Okay,
it
so-
requires an experiment, does it not, Ruhif? So in
What's
that
that, man?
page, it refers to experiments, does it not?
Second.
It refers to experiments. Quantum Eraser took you through this.
Yeah.
So you're just going to ignore what he took you through?
We agree that the Rochester website is a pretty accurate representation.
Yeah, and it describes experiments. Correct? And the explanation given to you by Quantum Eraser was that there is an assumption you understand what an experiment is.
An observation, performance of experimental tests of the
Observation
prediction
of a phenomenon, not just an observation.
Hmm?
An observation of a phenomenon.
Yep.
Right.
Background ship being obscured by water.
All right. So the cause of that obstruction being curvature, correct?
The hypothesis.
Sorry. The cause is the cause. Why is it that when we come down to tying it down to a mathematical, a scientific explanation, normally you're all keen to say the cause of this obstruction is curvature, doggedly, really
Well, no,
bold
because-
in your assertions. Yes, the boat is obscured by curvature. Yet when I say it in a scientific way and say, so the cause in this scientific hypothesis is curvature, you start talking about maths and theory and models. Why can't you just say yes, Ruhif? Yes, the cause of the obstruction of the boat is curvature. Why can't you say yes?
Because Quantum Eraser made a distinction.
Is
He
the
says, what is the
cause
cause?
is the cause of the boat being obstructed Earth curve? Yes or no?
The mathematical relationship.
You still seem to say the mathematical relationship. Either the cause of the obstruction is
Go and
Earth
ask
curve,
QE
or
whether
it's not.
Earth curvature is a cause.
Either the cause of the obstruction is Earth curve, or it's not.
Quantum Eraser says that is a nonsensical proposition.
I'm asking you about how you
Yeah,
are
and I'm telling
formulating your scientific hypothesis that conforms to the scientific method. If it is a cause and effect relationship, wonderful.
Which
Let's
it's not.
figure out what the cause is. That would be the independent variable, would it not, Ruhif?
I'm not even entertaining the then.
You see, why is it that you're not even entertaining? I'm asking a simple question. Why is it that a glober who thinks curves obscuring everything can't just say yes? Yes, it is curve obscuring it. Yes, that is the cause.
Yes, it is.
Why can't you just say that, Ruhif? What's the problem?
Because
Why is it that
you're
you
going to listen
can't?
to what I actually say.
Why is it that in this instance you're not asserting that it's curvature? Just saying, yeah, it's
I am
curve blocking
asserting,
it.
I am asserting its curvature.
So,
It's not
so
a
the
cause.
so brilliant. So the cause is curvature. So the independent variable is curvature. Can you vary the curvature to study it, Ruhif?
This is exactly the point, Nathan.
No, this is why it's not a scientific adherence to the scientific method, Ruhif. That's what it is. So,
Let's read
I'll
the
ask
scientific
again.
method, Nathan.
Can you vary the curvature?
That is a nonsensical question.
I'm asking it. It requires a yes or no, simple, straight yes or no answer.
It's a malformed question.
It's not a malformed question. It requires a yes or no. In the scientific theory, in the scientific method, you have an independent
How red
variable.
is
That
that?
would be the cause. And in order to experiment, you need to be able to vary it. So if you are claiming that the cause is curvature of the obstruction, then we need to be able to vary it. If you're saying it's nonsensical because we can't vary it, then it's not an adherence to the scientific method, is it, Ruhif?
Read number 2, Nathan. Step 2. You want me to read it? Are you going to shut up enough for me to read it?
You still haven't answered my question. The cause being curvature would be the
nonsensical
independent
question, dickhead.
variable, would it not?
Step 2.
Would
The
it be?
hypothesis-
Why is it? You see, Ruhif doesn't seem to want to answer me. Amazing this. Usually they're so dogged in their answers. Yet in this instance, he wants to dance around it. Amazing.
So I would like somebody to challenge my proof that the Earth is not a spinning ball. Because before we all get into this theoretical science concept again, and Ruev not answering questions. And
I'm answering the
else-
question. I'm telling him it's a nonsensical
No,
question.
No,
Is
what you're
there
saying is
anywhere
you
where this
can't
model
vary
is
the
drawn up?
independent variable. The cause in this instance cannot be manipulated by Ruhif. Therefore, it is not an adherence to the scientific method.
Can you read English, Nathan?
Yeah, you haven't got an adherence to the scientific method. Nobody has in 2,000 years of globe understanding, Ruhif. Nobody has achieved this. You do not have proof of Earth curvature. Going forward and measuring things on boats on single images is not an adherence to the scientific method. And when I hold your toes to the fire in terms of what your independent variable is, you tell me it's a nonsensical question simply because you can't answer it. When I ask you if the cause is curvature, you obfuscate the question over and over again because you know it's nonsense. You know it's not an adherence to the scientific method. I know it too, Ruhif. That's why you're dancing around it.
Why don't you read step 2, Nathan? Read it to your audience.
I'm not interested in reading
Because you
anything.
just mute me every time I say
I'm
something.
only interested in your presentation of an adherence to the scientific method that proves Earth curvature. You don't have to like the word proof. You don't have to like the word proof. I don't care.
Okay, read step 2 out to your audience.
No, I haven't got it in front of me. You
No,
read it.
I didn't. I'll read it then. Are you going to let me actually speak and read it out?
yeah, do it.
Okay. Owen, let me know if you hear the entire thing. Actually,
Right.
no, sorry. Audience, let me know if you hear the entire thing. Step
Just
2.
Get to it.
Yep. Well, Nathan keeps muting it, so,
Yeah, stop complaining and get to it.
Well, Nathan, stop fucking muting.
Hey,
Okay, step 2, formulation of a hypothesis to explain the phenomena. In physics, the hypothesis often takes the form of a causal mechanism or a mathematical relation. Does everyone know what the word or means in English?
yeah,
Yep.
means either, basically.
Yes? Right?
So, what's your point?
So, when Nathan, the rumpus just said, could you announce that I have just been kicked? Okay, so Nick heard me anyway. So when Nathan says, what is the cause, he is automatically assuming that this is a causal relationship, not a mathematical relationship. He's assuming it.
Sorry, is mathematics a study of the natural world? Or is it just
You
used
can
to
model the natural world,
or is
yeah.
it just used to explain things?
Yeah, you give explanations in mathematics, absolutely.
Right, so are we studying mathematics here or the natural world?
We're using maths to explain the natural
Sorry,
world.
are we studying the natural world here?
Yes.
Right. So what part of the natural world are we studying?
The shape of the Earth.
Shape of the Earth. So that would be curvature.
Yes.
And curvature in your example is the cause of the
No.
obstruction of the... It's not the cause. So did you just say no?
Again, I said no. Read step 2.
Sorry. So the cause, let's just get it straight. We've just got a bit of clarity. According to Ruhith, the obstruction of the boat is not caused by curvature.
No, I didn't say that either.
Can I try, Nathan? I think what he's saying is that it is curvature, but there's less curvature
No, that's not what he's saying.
in the area where the boat is.
No, I haven't got a straight answer for
No,
him.
that's
Don't
not
answer
what I'm
for him.
saying.
It's all right.
Oh,
He
I'm
can
saying
answer for
this is
himself.
not a causal
I'm happy
mechanism.
for him to obfuscate the question. Either it's caused by curvature or it isn't.
Okay. There are 2 choices at the end of that sentence. One of them is a causal mechanism. The other is a mathematical relationship.
Right, well, we're talking about cause and effect. Boat's covered by
You
Earth
are.
curve, and that cause is curve. Right, Ruhith? Causal relationship, correct?
You're not adhering to the scientific method.
Right, we're not talking about a mathematical relationship. Cause and
Yes, we
effect.
are.
No,
We're
talking
absolutely
about
talking
a
about a mathematical
causal relationship. Boat is obscured, the cause is curve. That's a cause and effect relationship, not a mathematical one.
The relationship is mathematical.
No, it's not. It's a simple cause and effect. Boat goes behind curve, boat gets blocked because of curve. Simple cause and effect.
Let's get Quantum Eraser in here and ask him whether Earth curvature is a cause.
You're the one asserting this. Why are you asking Quantum Eraser
No,
to make
I'm
your
telling you
assertions?
it's not a cause.
You want to make the assertion that the boat is blocked by Earth curve. That's a cause.
No.
So there is
It's a
no curve.
relationship.
So there's no
Oh,
curve
what
route.
is
It's
the
not
cause
caused
of-
by Earth
of
curvature
the ship
then.
being blocked then.
So it's not caused by
If
Earth
it's
It's
not
curve.
not a
curve.
cause and effect. This is
Yeah.
a mathematical
The
relation.
effect is the boat is blocked. The cause is Earth curvature. That is a cause and effect relationship. Very straightforward. Boat goes behind curve, is obscured by curvature. That's the
Yes.
cause.
No, not a
According
cause
to
and
you
effect.
guys, that's the cause, right?
Cause and effect is temporal.
Sorry,
Is
temporal.
it
I
part
don't
of the
understand.
cause?
What do you mean temporal?
Hmm?
Well, I don't understand. What do you mean?
Do you know what the word temporal means?
Clearly not. Please explain.
Okay. Relating to time. Or the passage of time, at least.
Okay, so
Sorry, no,
would it
no,
not
no,
be
no, 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 no. The curve is not affected by time. The curvature is just fixed. Yeah? That's a fixed variable. In other words, you cannot vary the cause. The cause isn't the time elapsed. That's not the cause at all.
Have you finished?
Well, it's not the time elapsed. That's not the cause.
Rumpus just proposed a compromise.
how is it temporal? That would suggest that if you wait an
That's
hour and
why it's
everything
not a
would be in the
causal
same
mechanism.
position, then it would not be blocked by curve because of the variance in time. That's a very
this is
weird
why-
suggestion.
This is
So
why it's
does
not
the
a cause and
curve
effect,
change
Arwen.
over
Do you not
time?
get that?
I don't get it. I don't see why it's temporal. Either
Cause and
it is
effect
blocked by the
temporal.
curvature or it is not.
Oh,
It's a
geez,
very
Pete.
straightforward question.
Cause and effect is temporal. This is why it's not a causal mechanism. It's a mathematical relationship. Rumpus actually just proposed a compromise. He said it's a geometric cause.
Sorry, geometric. That would mean it's Earth
Geometric
curve. It's
cause.
the curve of the Earth.
Yes.
So, finally, it's taken about 20 sodding minutes. So the cause is Earth curve.
It's a geometric cause.
You can
Which I think
phrase
is a
it
reasonable
slightly differently,
compromise.
Ruhif. You're just going to piss me off, right? It's Earth curve causing it,
You
right?
already are pissed off at
It's
it,
it's Earth curve causing it, correct?
The curvature of the Earth is causing.
Right. So the curvature is the independent variable.
No.
Yes. If curve, then obstruction.
I suggested a compromise.
I'm not compromising on
and you
anything.
immediately
You can't
discarded it.
vary the independent variable in your experiment, man. Silence.
I suggested a compromise. No, I
I
suggested
don't
a
want to
compromise.
compromise. What part of this aren't you getting? There is no compromise. You can't vary your independent variable, therefore it doesn't adhere to the scientific method, Ruhif. End of story.
Well, then I'm going back to my position that it's a mathematical relationship and not going to compromise on it.
Well, you can talk about your mathematical relationship. That only applies to your model.
Yeah? What's wrong with the model?
Well, we're not talking
Or
about
hypothesis.
models here. We're talking about Earth.
Aren't we talking about the scientific method?
No, we're talking about Earth.
No! Really?
Yeah, measuring it. The curve of it that you claim's there, blocking boats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's read
Yeah, that's
step
what
two
we're
again.
talking about, Ruhif. Not a model of
Okay.
Earth that blocks boats. It's not the model getting in the way, is it now? It's the bloody Earth curve.
Formulate a hypothesis to explain the phenomena.
I don't have to. You do. You've formulated one,
Well,
it's crap. Your independent variable is Earth curve, something you cannot manipulate.
So you're not formulating a hypothesis?
I don't want to
I
prove
could.
Earth curve.
Based on
You
that
do.
model.
Yeah, I'm following the scientific method. It says
No, you're
formulate
not.
a hypothesis.
No,
Are you
your
not doing
independent variable can't be varied. You're not following the scientific method.
There isn't
You're
one in the
defaulting to,
mathematical
I want to
relationship.
do it mathematically on my model. No, we're talking about Earth, reality, flat Earth debate, not globe Earth model debate.
that? I hear you, Rumpus. I can hear you.
So have you got another
Okay.
experiment where you can actually manipulate the independent variable, Ruhif? Have you got a different one, maybe?
Because this is not a causal mechanism.
Sorry. The boat is getting obscured, and according to you, the cause is Earth curve. That is a causal relationship. Silence
It's a
again.
mathematical relationship, yeah.
No, it's not a mathematical relationship. How many bloody times do I have to say it? Cause and effect. Boat goes behind curve and is obscured by curve. The cause being curve.
We
According
hypothesize
to
a
you.
radius. We have
According
the
to you.
viewer height and the distance to the ship.
So we have a cause and
How's that
effect
not a
relationship,
mathematical
don't
relationship?
we? So we have a cause and effect relationship.
I think what
No,
he's
I'm
trying to
not
say is that his
compromising.
cause is the fact that his curve changes. It's not a perfect curve. Therefore, his cause and effect is the fact that the curve is not constant.
Excellent.
My
Let's see that established as a fact, shall we?
That's very interesting. That means that the curve.
I'm trying to understand what
it's
he's
the
saying. I
wobbly Earth.
disagree
It's
with
a,
him.
a wobbly,
but-
wobbly Earth. Then
Yeah. Let's
Surface
see that
constantly
established.
changes
Let's
shape.
see that as established fact then. We've already had
Yeah.
this. No,
What
he's not
Nathan's-
taken
what
any
Nathan's trying to
measurements
do.
to confirm that the Earth is wider at the centre. No measurements. Just a model. Just talking about what a model of a sphere does. Meaningless nonsense. Literally
No, you then
useless
go
in
take-
reference to the Earth. No measurements taken. No proof provided. No evidence cited. Nothing. Just an assertion based on what a sphere model does. Meaningless. Useless. Pointless.
No, not at all. This whole debate that you've had for 190
Let's try that
shows.
again, Ruhif.
Are you
Have
gonna
you
let
got
me
any
speak, Nathan?
evidence to back up
Seriously.
your assertion that the Earth is wider at the centre?
Are you going to let me speak?
I'm asking a direct question. Do you have any
Yeah, and
evidence?
you asked the direct
that
question
Earth,
before and I started
You're talking
answering,
over
and
me
you
now. I
started
repeat my
repeating again.
question. You can answer it if you have evidence for the assertion that you have made that Earth is wider at the centre. So the actual Earth, where I'm standing right now, what evidence, based on that place I'm standing, not a sphere model,
yes.
what evidence
please,
do you
Robert.
have of that?
Let's go back to the third direct question back in time.
No, I'm asking a direct question now. What evidence do you have for your assertion that the Earth is wider at the centre? Simple.
You've asked me like 5 direct questions. Let's go back to the first one.
No, let's stick with this one. What evidence do you
No.
have for the assertion that Earth is wider at the centre?
No, you just keep talking over me, Nathan, so I'm not even going to bother.
You don't have to. I'll just keep asking it, and the audience will hear you obfuscate and then be a coward and run away, or try and change the subject. So, what evidence do you have for the assertion that the Earth is wider at the centre?
It has been measured by scientists.
You want
is
to
my
show that?
evidence.
Excellent. Let's see it.
I don't feel like bringing it up.
I just assert that you don't have any and you're lying.
Well, fine then. The Earth is a perfect sphere. Whatever.
No, that's not an assertion you get to make here. The Earth is perfectly flat, Ruhif. It's perfectly flat and absolutely unequivocally cannot be a sphere. Whatever observation you present, I'll say it won't work on a sphere, because I'm just like you and Rumpus, and I can just assert it without any evidence. So, again, what's your evidence for the Earth being wider at the centre? Scientists have proved it, let's see it.
No. Let's just go with a straight 6,371k radius.
Why? What proof do you
my
have
model.
of this?
That's my hypothesis.
I'm not interested in your hypothesis. How many times do I say I don't care about your hypothesis or your theory? I want to know what proof at this stage. This is the question right now, right here, Ruhif. What proof do you have that the Earth is wider at the centre?
My hypothesis is that the Earth has a radius of 6,371 kilometers.
My hypothesis is that the Earth has got a circumference of 8 million miles.
Okay, let's test your hypothesis.
Right,
let's
let's
make
test
some
yours.
experiments and some observations.
So, what proof do you have? I'm
Let's
not interested in a
follow the
hypothesis.
scientific method, Nathan.
I'm not interested in testing it going forward. You've made an
You're not
assertion.
following the method.
You've made an assertion. I want to know what
You're
that
fucking
assertion is
joking,
based
seriously.
on. Is your assertion based on a hypothesis?
You're not interested in the scientific method at all, are you?
I'm interested in proof.
Via the scientific method, yes.
I'm interested in what proof you provide for the Earth being wider at the centre. That's what you've asserted. Now I want to know why you've asserted it.
It is my model.
So we're back to this old crap then. You deaf, Ruhif. I don't give a crap what your sphere model does. That's not Earth. Do I need to ask you the question again? What
You can
proof
if you like.
do you have the Earth, not a model, the Earth is wider at the centre? Do you have any proof of this? Or is it just an assertion? Just a nonsensical assertion?
Are you going to listen, Nathan, or not?
You're going to tell me about a
You
model
talk
or a
over.
hypothesis? Or are you going to present some
You talk about
proof
it every time I
to
speak.
back up your assertion?
Take it easy, Nathan.
Shut up. Shut up, Alan. What's your proof
Alan B.
that the Earth is wider at the centre, Ruhif?
Sorry. Oh, dear.
Am I
Should we
getting
just, should we, okay, we'll just
Maybe
take it as
he
read,
wants
Ruhif.
to-
You don't have any proof that the Earth is wider at the centre. It's just nonsense that you're asserting.
It's my
Yeah, I
it's
know
my
it's your
hypothesis.
hypothesis. That's not proof, is it?
Well, then again, like what you keep talking about scientific proof, and then you say scientific proof, corresponds to the scientific method. The scientific method says, formulate hypothesis. That's my hypothesis.
Hey, Ruif,
No, you're deaf. You're deaf. Clearly, you have got a hearing problem. I've asked you what proof you have of the Earth being wider at the centre, and you're presenting me with a hypothesis.
Nathan.
Yeah,
Can
I
we-
get
Can we
it.
test it?
Right, so you don't have any proof that the Earth is wider at the centre, Ruhif, correct?
Do you mean proof according to the scientific method?
Right. I am certain that every single person on the panel and in the audience understands the word proof. Do you have any proof
No,
that the Earth
I
is
don't think
wider
that's
at the
true, Nathan.
centre?
I don't think that's true, Nathan.
Do you have any proof of your assertion?
What do you mean by proof? I know you think I'm
Don't need
obfuscating
to
you,
dice up what the
but
word is
you're
proof.
Not following,
If
you're
you've
not
got
following
proof,
the method that you claim to follow.
if you've got proof of the Earth being wider at the centre, I assert that you would have presented it already, rather than ask me what I think proof is. So I will assert
No,
right
I'm
now,
asking you.
don't have proof that the Earth is a wider ball at the centre. All you have is a model. which means
Yeah.
nothing. It's not Earth.
It is my hypothesis. Let's test
I
it.
couldn't. How many times have I got to say this to you? I don't care about your hypothesis. I have asked you for what proof of your assertion you have, and the answer is you don't have any. You have a hypothesis. That's what you actually have. So I'll say it again. You don't have proof of your assertion, and I couldn't care less what you think or hypothesize.
So, Nathan, yeah, you got him. That's pretty obvious, but I would like to continue on and basically, for a moment, theoretically adapt the model of my spinning Earth with the centrifugal forces to what Rueff has suggested, that, namely that it is oblate. I made a quick new model, and there seems to be some very interesting new problems for them that would come of it. Namely that, well, for starters, the gravitational pull would be different because, yeah, at the equator, the amount of matter in between the center point and the actual surface would be greater, causing greater gravity than in the North and South Pole. But also, the funny thing is that the actual centrifugal force at the equator and also at an angle would be greater because the distance between the axis of rotation would now be wider, causing the centrifugal force to become greater, which means that at the, well, let's just say a 45-degree angle, which would not be exactly like if the angle between, how do you say, when the surface is at a 45-degree slant, aligning to the center point of the Earth, that the centrifugal force would actually be greater than on a globe, which would cause the necessity for the slant to cause an equilibrium of objects standing on that globe to be even greater. So it's, yeah, your suggestion that because it's oblate, then the centrifugal force becomes non-existent, that you wouldn't see it, that it's no, it would, the centrifugal force that would be sideways, that would not be in perfect alignment with the center point of the Earth. It would be greater because the distance between the axis and the actual surface point would be greater, causing the centrifugal force sideways to become greater. So there you go.
You have to show me that in numbers, I think.
No, it's a matter of distances.
Yeah, I know,
if
but
the Earth is a perfect sphere, then the distance between the axis and the side, yeah, the long side of the oblate spheroid, it would be greater than with a sphere, causing the centrifugal force to be greater, because it's a scientific fact that with centrifugal force, the further away you go from the axis rotation point, the greater the centrifugal force becomes. It's a scientific fact. So there you go. On a spheroid, the southward push caused by centrifugal force would be greater than on a sphere. And that's how I do science.
Well, you clearly don't use numbers.
Now, you don't need to do numbers for that. You can back calculate it if you like, but you don't need to do numbers. You not just need to realize, hey, this is bigger. It's more. It's more, causing these things to be more. You don't need numbers to measure it. You can just make a difference like, hey, this is wider, this is bigger, causing this to become bigger.
Yeah, but
it's a relation. The relation is there.
Oh, is it a mathematical relationship, Owen?
It could be. You can measure it out in mathematics, but you don't necessarily need to do that to make a provable point, which I just did.
I think, yeah, for me to understand at least, you need to make it a mathematical one.
Well, calculate it then for me. You did it with the globe, so do it with the spheroid.
I've got to be honest, Arwen, it's a bit unreasonable to make an assertion and then ask them to calculate it for you?
Yeah, but
Nathan.
I'm lazy that way. So
First of all, it's a good start if they calculate it because they always keep
notice
giving
how-
us
sorry.
stuff to do.
I'm not the one that's suggesting the Earth is a spheroid. That was not my suggestion. I'm
And why
just
does
adapting
NASA
my
keep putting
concepts.
out blue
That is all.
balls if it's shaped like if it's oblique shaped like that?
Yeah, but the thing is, the natural side effect of an oblate shape would be that the force at the equator caused by centrifugal force would be naturally greater than on a globe because the distance between the axis of rotation and the surface would be further. It would be.
We're coming up on about an hour left on this live stream. Hope you're all enjoying the debate thus far. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But if you'd like to join the panel, simply mute the page you're currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show if you've not done so already. Sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. As I say, there is approximately 1 hour left on this live stream.
Out because buildings don't stand straight upward at an angle because they have to
Was that
maintain
you?
an equilibrium with the center point of the theorized spheroid, in this case Earth.
This is what I was trying to say before, that there's a measurement error. Like, how are you going to measure to like 0.01 of a degree?
But that's not
the
very
real world?
hard to do at all. Architects, when they
Architects.
actually design things, they do it perfectly.
Architects. Oh no, they do it
Architect-
perfectly on paper.
The ones that actually measure out and figure out exactly how the buildings need to be built.
Yeah, they do
They
it
have to
perfectly on
account
paper.
for
Yeah.
every little bit. They cannot think, oh look, oh it's not perfect, oh it's negligible. No, it has to be perfect or things are not going to fit. Things are going to be out of balance. The forces are going to be misdistributed, causing structural failure. It has to be perfect. That's what architects do.
Architects.
Arwen's never met my builder. Some of his work's quite negligible.
Well, your builder's not very good then.
Yeah, but like, what's the angle?
Really large, huge buildings that are like a mile high or something, they have to account for every perfect detail, or it's going to cause failure over time. It's going to cause structural damage, all that.
What's the angle currently on the Tower of Pisa?
It's caused by
Like, I know
I
earthquakes.
have
it's
no
supported.
idea, but that thing is very old and it's clearly unstable, which is
Yeah, it
admitted.
is, but it's not a huge angle, right? What is it?
That's not really a good example for
Okay.
an
How
architectural
about-
design because it's
Architect.
a mess.
ARK. I'm just trying.
And
I'm
it's
actually
not that
literally trying to
high
help
either.
your English.
It's not really that high, so
No, but even in high-rise buildings, they still move at the top, right?
yeah, they flex.
Yeah, and they actually blow in the wind.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I don't think 0.01 or is it 0.1 or 0.01? 0.1 of a degree.
That's
0.1.
actually an excellent point, Ruhif. So, Arwen, if the buildings are swaying, these tall buildings that you're measuring, I mean, it is monstrous buildings that sway, to be fair. If you're going to make a measurement based on that, would you be able to account for how much wind is making the building sway? The answer's probably no.
To be honest, I'm not all that sure, but if the alignment would be off, then that would mean that every time it flexes, the forces exerted on the bottom where it's actually attached to the ground would be greater on one side than it would be on the other. And that would eventually cause one side of it, with the presumed sway being in two directions, as it usually does, it would cause more pressure on one side than on the other, causing eventual damage on one side. It's
No, the
asymmetric.
tolerance built into
The
buildings
forces
is
have to
pretty
be
enormous.
distributed as perfectly balanced as possible. That's part of the architectural process.
Do you know the tolerance built into buildings is pretty large, right?
Yeah.
Who's an engineer, a structural engineer, in the chat? If anyone is.
No, but what I can tell you is this: is that if they start out at whatever angle they start out in relationship to each other, whatever the wind blows, it'll blow the same amount on both buildings. So whatever angle there was will remain at a distance. Like
No, that's not
Arwen is
true.
waiting for the
No.
buildings to start not being parallel to each other.
That's not true. You know, the building will have a frequency, and it will sway at that frequency depending on the conditions of the wind. I know this because of going up Taipei 101.
Yeah, but
and they had a very
the buildings side by side to each other will sway just as much.
No, they wouldn't. They'd have their own frequency.
No?
Each building would have its own frequency, and
Okay.
and therefore they obey their own frequency and nothing else. You know, and that is dictated by the conditions that are affecting that building. And in Taipei 101, they literally had an enormous pendulum inside the building to counteract this. And I didn't see it happen. I wasn't there during an earthquake, but you know, the amount of flex in the building is several feet at the top. You know, quite a considerable amount of flex that it has to endure.
More than several feet, but yeah. But
Yeah.
but the point is that I was thinking that both buildings would flex equally.
No,
And
not at all.
whatever relationship there was before there was wind would remain with the wind.
Hello, Spurs. Is that you?
Hello.
Good to have you.
Whatever the case may be, it is.
You hear me? Is
pretty-
am I coming through all
We
right?
can hear you.
Yeah,
We can hear
clear
you.
as crystal.
Whatever the case may be, it is pretty logical to assume that architects want to build their tall buildings in perfect equilibrium, forces-wise, to the earth. They want it to be in perfect balance, so they're going to measure it out to make it in perfect balance. And thus, if the Earth was a spinning ball or an oblate spheroid, then there would be an angle on these buildings everywhere, on all buildings, on all things, and
Yeah, but
objects
I think what he's
hanging
trying
on
to
a string would also be not perfectly straight down either.
I think what he's trying to say is that the buildings are the way he's describing it, except the damn wind is straightening them all out.
I don't think so.
Well, I'm trying to understand what he's trying to say, but I think he's trying to say that the buildings are like the picture says they're not parallel to each other if you go far enough away, but the wind as it blows on them makes them all parallel.
Sounds reasonable
Yeah,
to me.
Is that it?
I don't think that's what he's saying.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm really trying to understand it.
And architects, Nathan. Sorry, not Nathan. Arwen, architects.
But an architect will simply tell you that the building is designed they designed the top floor first and the bottom floor last. That's the only thing an architect will tell you. And the fact that they sway 10 to 15 feet. Like the
Oh, I'm there.
Oh, where's he gone?
He dropped. He just dropped.
Well, whatever the case may be, how architects design their buildings, beside that concept that buildings would be standing at a slight angle, 0.1 degrees or something in that direction, there's also the thing that all mammals have this organ in their inner ear that causes them to stand at an equilibrium, to stand straight up. And that would mean that all things, including us, would then experience the entire surface of the Earth, at least at an angle, like say 45 degrees or roughly in that direction, we would experience like we were standing slightly on a hill.
Do you think you could detect that?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yes, you would. You would absolutely be able to detect that, and you would
What?
blindly.
I guarantee you, if you go to the North Pole and the equator, you will not be able to tell me your weight.
Okay, so
Okay, well, thank you for that guarantee. It's very hard to confirm, but the fact
Well,
is that there is this balance organ within all mammals, including human beings, that causes us to perfectly center and be able to stand
I think
at an
error is using the word
equilibrium
perfectly.
in relation to the forces, assumed gravity, and it would have to account for the centrifugal force as well, however minute that may be in comparison to the gravity.
Hello, Arif. Is
And
that
that
you?
would
Hold on,
cause us
Arwin. Arwin, hold
literally
on.
to
Is that you,
experience
Arif?
as standing at an angle.
Is that you, Arif?
It is.
Oh, we didn't.
No.
No.
probably not.
Well, I didn't say hello. Did you want to
Yeah.
interject, Spurs? I heard you pipe up for a second.
I suppose.
I'll just wait till they hash it out. I'm not going to interrupt. So I want to take Rufus down the path. So I don't want to take him off topic.
Rufus.
Roof. What?
Ruhith.
Ruhif.
Yeah.
Sorry, forgive me.
I actually
Ruhif.
explained to Anthony what it meant the other night.
Ruhif. Okay. What does it mean?
So I think
It's
what
a
Spurs is
phonetic,
what Spurs is
phonetic
politely doing is asking Arwin
representation.
if he's done. Sorry to interrupt you, Ruhif. Sorry to talk over you.
Okay.
Are you finished with your point, Arwin? I'll take
Yes,
that
he
as a
is.
yes. You go ahead, Spurs. Take Ruhif on his journey.
Okay, so we're talking about science, Ruhif. Saying that we're saying that science hasn't proved where we live, and so I want to try and have a discussion about that, how we can come to a consensus and agreement of whether something can be proved scientifically or not. So I think you have to kind of agree, or I have to agree, if something can or can't be proven scientifically. Do you agree so far?
I think that you cannot prove anything scientifically.
So this is the problem. We've been led to believe, for the last 500 years, that we have proven the Earth through science, the shape of the Earth through science, where we live, the model through science.
Yeah, and I think that's in a colloquial sense of the word proof.
Yep.
No, but however it's been, whatever is the colloquial sense, the point is it's through science. Yes, science. Science has shown us where we live.
Yes. Yeah.
But this is
Do
what I'm
you want me
saying.
to sort of have a
Okay, so in your mind, how has science kind of done this?
we have a hypothesis and then we test it repeatedly, and every observation that we make or experiment we do matches the globe model and not a flat model.
Okay, so you remember yesterday, I don't know if you remember or not, but Rumpus was talking with Anthony about a ship observation. Did you catch that?
Is it the Wollongong one that we're talking about?
Yeah, the one that you've provided, your
Yeah.
ship. Yeah.
Yep.
So Anthony was saying something about if I could get that ship, same distances, replicate those type of things, then Rumpus was saying, well, it has to be exactly the same replication. It has to be like windy or the conditions, right? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, yep.
Okay,
It was
so
about whether we replicate that exact observation, or we just sort of.
Okay, so again, this is why I get confused. What was Rumpus asking for?
Well, asking whether Nathan wants this exact replication done, or whether we can sort of find another ship going over another curve somewhere else in the world. It's like another experiment or another phenomenon.
It's rather strange that people don't understand that scientific knowledge is tentative and provisional,
Correct.
and
Provisional.
that nothing is final. Why is that so difficult to grasp?
100% correct.
Something
Alan.
is scientific proof until the opposite has been, the opposite has been proven, or it has been proven to be incorrect.
But Arwin, in science, there's no such thing as proven knowledge.
Well, there is until it has been disproven.
We just mean in the
This is why we're
colloquial
talking
sense,
about the-
Alan. We just mean
Yeah,
in the colloquial
colloquially.
sense.
Well, I think that the whole concept of water boiling at 100 degrees Celsius in regular atmospheric conditions is a scientific proven fact. You can disprove. You
In
cannot
what-
disprove that it does work that way
Arwin,
always.
Arwin, what you don't understand about science is it's not final.
technically it is not final, but until you can disprove
the
it, it is final.
That's the
That's how it
key.
works. So if
Until
you
disprove
can disprove it, then yeah, try and disprove it.
That's
Yeah,
the beauty
that's
of
the key.
science.
Yeah,
Nothing is final.
yeah, it is. It is
No.
true.
No.
Yeah, but still, yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. But things have been proven to be correct, and there has been no proof against that fact. So it stands solid, firm as proof.
Yeah, but it's still provisional.
Of course, eventually it
okay.
is, but until
yeah.
it can be disproven, it is
Thank you.
considered scientific proven fact.
Yeah, but
No
you're
worries.
using the word proof there in a colloquial sense, right?
No, I don't think
No.
so.
So like a logical or mathematical.
No,
Context.
proof in this case is proof.
Yeah,
Like
colloquial sense of the
100%
term.
irrefutable, you know.
Irrefutable
What's the word?
means that you cannot prove that it's not correct.
Okay, can we kind of continue where I left because I was kind of kicked?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Are you on
So-
Skype now, Spurs?
Hmm?
Are you
So
on Skype
yeah,
now?
you remember where Rumpus was saying it has to be kind of similar, the similar observation, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so we understand that. Okay, so now we can go back to finding out the shape of the Earth and where we live and things like that. Okay, so the first claim obviously would be that we're living on a ball, yes. But kind of flat earthers want to know where you get that idea from. What gives you that idea that you look out, you see a straight line. Why do you now say or suppose we're on a ball?
It's
What
the
would give you that
hypothesis
idea?
that we're testing.
No. First of all, what has given you that idea? The first of all, you can't just say, well, I think we're on a square, we're on a triangle, on a ball, on a flat
Oh.
surface. Yeah.
It's a hypothesis is a guess, but it's an educated guess. So if I see a boat going up, oh shit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If I see a boat going over the horizon in every direction, no matter where,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like a reasonable guess to make.
That is reasonable. No,
can't.
I can't disagree. That is reasonable. Okay, but then the thing is, how are you going to now test that? That's the next
Well,
thing
you
we need
make
to
the
focus
model,
on.
so you
Because
define the model.
no,
But
hold
you
on,
go.
slow down a little bit. Because you've said the ship has gone over the horizon, so therefore it must have gone over curvature. But I'd like to know where you get that idea from. What gave you that idea in the first place originally? Why would you assume that it's gone over or it's gone away from you, and then you kind of immediately go from it must be a curve?
Not necessarily
You follow?
must be a curve, but it's a reasonable guess
Yeah, but based on what?
that it went over a curve. Like what's I don't understand the
Well,
Yes,
this
question.
guy's
but
doing
how
now,
did you
right?
come to that? What
Hold
I'm
on,
saying is,
Spurs, I'm just sharing,
hold
I'm
on,
just sharing
sorry.
a video with him.
No,
So, like, this
So
guy's
hold on.
just gone over
No,
the curve.
let
right,
me get
Rudolph?
it out. Sorry. What I'm saying is, where is your experience to know that what you've just seen is what has happened? So you've just said it's gone over. If you've just said it's gone. So your next words are referring to something that you've experienced before. And I'm asking, where have you experienced what you're speaking about? You follow?
Not
You're
really.
laughing because
All I'm
you're
saying is that I
confused. Because
see.
no, you're laughing. I can tell you why you're laughing. It's because it's what you've been told. You've been told this is how things work. So I'm kind of I'm trying to have a discussion. I'm trying to talk with you through it. You're saying I have a hypothesis, I have a theory, I have an understanding that this ship has gone over what? Now you said curvature, and I'm asking, well, where did you get that idea from?
Do we agree that there either is curvature or there is zero curvature?
No, before you can even say that.
Right, that's the true
No,
dichotomy.
before you can even make that assertion or even go down that path, I want to know where you got that idea from. Where have you seen this phenomena or this observation to say, well, I think it's going over curvature? Where did you get
so
that from?
you're basically trying to get to a point where like I've been indoctrinated. Is that kind of where you're going?
No. Forget the
No.
indoctrination. I'm asking you. You said you've made an observation. So in your heart or in your soul, you feel, oh, I know this. I've seen this before. I recognize this. So I'm asking you, where have you seen what you think you have recognized? Yes?
I don't know.
Right. So how did you come to that conclusion? Oh, it must have gone over curvature, or it must have been missing out. How did you get that in your mind? Yes?
It's not a conclusion. I see that the bottom of the boat is obscured.
Okay, so I'm asking you, where did you get that from? How did you come to that conclusion? Where's your experience to say, well, something has disappeared from the bottom first, therefore it's going over curvature?
There is something obscuring it. I have a reasonable guess.
But you're completely missing the point here.
Curved.
What you've got to have experience to make a guess or know something that it could be true. You don't just think of something like, oh, there could be Santa Claus. If I think there is Santa Claus, I would have thought that think that maybe I've seen something flying in the skies before to suggest this new idea. I'm asking you, where before we're on Earth, we're standing here, we're looking at a ship, it's disappeared. Now, where did you get the idea curvature or curve, or where? I'm lost. I'm at a loss.
I'm at a loss as to where you're trying to go with this.
Because you've had no experience of this before, but you've jumped from ships disappearing to I've had experience of a ship disappearing over a horizon before.
I have object permanence, so I know that the bottom of the ship is still somewhere.
How do you know this?
very
Is what I'm
confused,
asking you.
guys.
How do you know this? Where do you get this from?
Where do I get object permanence from?
No,
Education.
where do you get this idea that something is going over the curvature? If something goes down the stairs, I can say, well, I've seen it before. People go down the stairs, so I know that if they go down the stairs, they're going to disappear bottom first. So where have you seen a
I'm still
ball
struggling. Yeah.
with the conditions of Earth, with the atmosphere of Earth, where something has disappeared? Where have you seen that?
I don't know.
You
Can I
haven't seen that.
interject
That's my
for a
point.
second?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
So
scared
that's
to say,
the
they're
point.
scared to say perspective because everybody knows where that's going to lead. That's all.
But I'm just trying to show a point here that people make claims without the experience of making that assumption in the first place. He's assuming
perspective.
that he's had a
Tentative
ball
claim.
in the past. The assumption is that he's had a ball in the past with the atmosphere of Earth, and he's had a ship on that Earth with the atmosphere, and he saw that, and he said, "Well, look, this happens on Earth also. This also happens here on Earth." And so, therefore, if my theory is correct, then this should happen. But you're just saying it randomly. The ship has disappeared, and then injecting the word curvature. Why? I'd like to know.
I'm so lost as to where you're trying to go.
I think you get
Is
it.
it
I
not?
think I
No,
think
is it not a
it's
reasonable
dawning on you.
hypothesis to
No,
make?
I think it's dawning on you. I don't think you're lost. I think you get it. I
Hey,
think
Waz,
it's
how you
dawning
doing?
on you that
Hello?
you cannot go from ship disappearing to
Right.
curvature without experiencing curvature.
Do I have to say, like, I've been on a boat before and the water looks
Not on
flat?
a boat, because you're on the boat. You would have to say, I've
No.
I've
I'm
had a
talking
ball.
about-
But,
I've had a circumference.
Spurs, where have you seen such a big, wide, flat plane to know it's flat on the same token? You know, the same argument works both ways, does it not?
We're not making any claims.
Sorry, well, I'll make one right now. So, can you see what's on screen, Was? Because I can see what's on screen, and we've got a guy being obscured from bottom up.
Yeah, that's a small, flat plane. That's right.
So,
it's actually
would you
not
say
flat.
that this is a
It's a
reasonable
field.
alternative
Flattish.
explanation? I seem to be
It's
getting
very
talked
small,
over.
and he disappears quite quickly.
Yeah, amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
No
all
curve
over
there,
the
though, eh?
scale.
Unless you're going to tell me that the relief for the drainage is causing 3 foot of curvature.
No, I'm not saying anything about it, mate. You are.
Yeah, I'm saying the guy's obscured from bottom up. So, do you want to do the
Yeah.
curve calcs on it?
I don't know, maths.
Do we have the what's the word? I know we've got to assume a flat thing, don't we? We don't have the location or we have no data. Actually, that's another thing I want to bring up. Unless Spurs finished. No,
No,
he
yeah,
hasn't.
I've
Spurs.
finished that. Just something for you to think about, and another bonus to think about is how can they assume if they haven't had the experience to know this is what is likely to happen? Yes, I think that's where the problem lies. That's why it's not science.
Especially in the face of a demonstration
but you-
like the one on screen now. So we've got a demonstration on screen now of things disappearing bottom first. Yeah? So this isn't because he's going out to sea and going over any curvature now, is it, lads? Let's be honest.
He is
How
going
far
over
is he
curve.
going?
Right, excellent.
How far is
so
he?
you can calculate how much curvature he's gone over on this football field.
Well, how
If
far
we
has he
had
gone
the-
from the camera?
No, hold on. Ruhif's asserted that he is going over curvature.
Yeah, because I have experience of football fields being not level.
Really? Excellent.
Yeah,
Let's see you do the curve calcs on it then.
we don't have the data.
No,
Even
it's
my-
all right. I've already said
even my
somebody might come
screens-
along and assert that there is a certain amount of relief. Yeah? Drainage. So, let's see you do the curve calcs on this football field.
We don't have the data for this football.
Yes, you do have the data. I've been told explicitly by Rumpus, who you seem to be collaborating with on this show, that you can calculate how much Earth curve obstructs something just by seeing the image. So you can back calculate this, can't you, Ruhif?
I use my model. This is not a flat surface.
Sorry, let me get this straight. So when it comes to the Earth, you can back calculate it because you go straight to a model of a sphere, which is meaningless, pointless, and has no relation to Earth whatsoever. Here we have a real world example, and you're saying you can't calculate the curve for this obstruction. Why not?
What's the observer height?
That's a good question. I don't actually know. I think he's a foot off the ground.
What you said we could do.
Well done, was.
Pitching.
Yeah, sorry. The question that brought up for me was, why did you call the last show lack of data for the Oz boat?
Because we don't have any
Observation.
actual data, just guesswork.
What data don't we have?
But you tell me what we know.
We know his location, and we know.
How do you know his
his
location?
observer
Let's
height.
start with that then. No problem. How have you confirmed his location?
He told us where he was, so either we have the
So
data
you haven't
or
confirmed
he's
his location. So when Anthony tells you where he is, there's probably, let's get it right, about 20 shows trying to figure out his location. So I'll ask
Yeah.
again. How do you know his location?
I believe the guy. He showed it.
So you just take it on faith. Right, that's a good start.
Oh no, his
Yeah, you just take it on
observations
faith. You
match.
just believe him. Correct?
No.
Well,
his
you-
ob-
That's
no.
what you just said. You just said, I believe him.
You believed Anthony at first, did you not?
Sorry, I'm running a debate show, was. So no, I put it up for debate. What you're doing is just guessing that he's correct. Taking it on faith, as I just pointed out. The word that he used was believe. Yeah? Well, you can believe him.
Do you believe you're married, Nathan?
So to answer your question, Ruhif,
No.
why did I put lack of data for the Oz boat? Because we have a lack of data for the Oz boat.
I think we have all the data we need.
No, what we have is your belief. Like usual.
Well, this is what I want to speak
Operated
to
by-
Ruhus about is
Okay.
belief, and if he actually believes it's a belief, if he understands that it's a belief, he's saying no, it's not. And
First,
you
do
know,
you believe you have a penis?
Sorry?
You believe this guy, right? So, I'll say it again. I titled the last show Lack of Data because there's a lack of data, Ruhif. All we've got so far, first thing on your list, is a belief in the data that you have been given by a man, right? So, you haven't confirmed it, you haven't checked it, you haven't validated it, you haven't verified it, you know nothing about this observation. We've extracted all sorts of other things based on your faith, though, haven't we?
Nathan, are you married?
Sorry, I'll just say it again. We don't have any data
Direct
for the
question,
Oz
Nathan.
boat,
Direct
right?
question.
Now, I've had that thrown back at me for this guy on a football field. Something that's pretty much flat, but could have a certain amount of relief.
Could. Has.
Could, potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah? But I'm asking you
Well,
to
what's
find
the football
3
field so we
foot,
can get measurements?
3 foot of relief in a football field. I think that's laughable, but if you want to attempt it, be my guest.
Do you believe you're married, Nathan?
This has got nothing to do with anything that has come up on this show, Ruhif.
He's making a point.
No, I'm asking. I'm trying to make a point. Yeah, Spurs is trying to make it as well. Let's we'll go back to Spurs then.
All right.
Spurs,
Are
do
you
you
a
believe
homosexual,
that-
Ruhif? Are you a homosexual?
Am I homosexual? No.
All right. That's fascinating. What does it have to do with anything? Nothing.
I want to hear whether Spurs believes he has a penis or not.
This is nonsense.
It's not nonsense. Does
Yeah,
he
it
believe
is.
he has one or not?
Again, belief okay, when you
Yeah.
believe something, you don't know it.
No,
There's
that
a
is
difference
incorrect.
between believing something and knowing it.
Correct.
Yes?
That's why I asked, how do you know
Hold on,
the
please,
observer
Nathan. Look,
height?
hold on. So, science is knowledge, gnosis. You do science, so you know something. Science hasn't done this with the ball, so we don't know the shape. That's why we're discussing it right now. Okay, so you believe the shape or the position of somebody or what, whatever it is. This is a fundamental difference. It's not knowing something. So you're asking me, are you married? Do you have this? Do you that? Again,
No,
this
do
is
you
not
believe it?
a belief system, is it? Yes? Do you see the
Do you
difference here?
believe you have a penis? Very simple, direct question, yes or no?
Do I know?
No, I'm asking you, do you believe?
According to science, yes, they have done
No, it's a
biology,
very simple
and
question, Spurs.
no, but again, you see, this is a different thing. This is science. Science says they know this. They have tested this. Yes, so there
What,
is
your
knowledge.
penis?
We now know that
Scientists-
people, that males have the certain parts, and females have other parts. So we know this through science. Again, you're trying to twist belief with knowledge
You are. I think you
and
are.
knowing things.
Do you believe you have a nose? Do you believe you have a nose?
No, I don't.
No, you don't. You don't believe you
No,
have a
because
nose. You seriously
science
don't believe you have a
tells
nose?
us,
No, he knows
science
he's got a
through
nose.
biology tells us that we have anatomy, body parts. We know this
How do you know
through
something but not
science.
believe it?
Because science
knows?
tells. Come on, Rufus. Science
By the way,
tells us.
Ruhif, your
Hello.
microphone is muffled again.
Sorry,
Science
hold on.
tells us. Yeah, science tells us because they do tests, they research, they observe. And they give us knowledge through science. The same thing is with the shape of the Earth. We don't know because your science hasn't told us anything, that we should know. It's just given us beliefs, a lot of belief
Listen.
systems.
Are you familiar with the word consensus?
Yeah, we're not
Yeah,
interested
we
in
are.
consensus opinion.
No, we just want Rufus to understand this belief. He's asking me, do you believe I have a nose? Again, ask science.
do
What
you
does
believe you have a
science say
nose?
about this?
We're not talking about science, Spurs. I'm asking you, do you believe you have a nose?
No, I know I have a nose.
No. So you know that you have a nose, but you don't
Uh-huh.
believe it. Do you know how absurd that is? You don't believe you have a nose.
He doesn't have a belief in his nose. He
This
has
is
a
what's
knowledge
at
of
point
his
here is the
nose.
definition of a belief.
Right. You have a belief in the observer height, Ruhif. You've got faith, my
Yes.
friend. You don't
I
know
have
the observer height.
corroborated that as well.
That's the
All
point. Let's get
praise
back
the
on
mighty
track.
nose.
Let's get back on track. You don't know the observer height. We've got a lack of data, haven't we? That was the point.
No, his observer location was corroborated by other data.
Love you too, Tom Tom.
What's Tom saying?
He just wants me to get booted.
Was his welcome here? Anyway, so his data's been corroborated.
Yeah,
By who and how? I've not seen it.
by the external data. So we know. He said to me before I had the position of the other ships, he said I was at this location, and when he said that, I provisionally accept that that's probably where he was. But
So we're back to exactly the same conclusion. So what, you've upped it slightly by confessing that you've spoken to him.
no, I've been able to validate that his statement of where he was matches the external data that I have. It corroborates it. So therefore, I have an increased confidence in what he said.
Okay.
We're all talking about nose in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, is that the level that we have to resort to? Is asking about, do we believe? But do you see how ridiculous that can sound? What you're saying there? You're
Well, I
asking.
think yeah.
Excuse me, Ruhif, how far away are you from where that thing was filmed?
80 k's. I'm in Sydney. I used to live in Bulli.
80K, so that's like a day trip to go and measure the height.
Yeah, and I don't know anyone down there anymore. So, I don't know anyone that I like down there anymore.
But if it
But
push
yeah,
came to shove, would you be able to go and measure it yourself?
I could. Oh, sorry,
Okay.
measure. Sorry,
The
measure the
observer height.
observer height where he says he was.
get an idea of how high he would have been. He'd be within a few meters. I'm
I've
guessing.
got the if he was where he said he was,
Yeah.
then I've got the what's it called, the topographical map,
Yeah. Okay.
and it's about 10 meters. Plus his
Okay.
tripod height or whatever.
Sorry.
It just comes down to whether he's lying or not. Then I
Yeah,
suppose.
and like I said, he had told me where he was before I had the ship data, and the ship data corroborates
His
where
position.
he was.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right, can I try this with was? Because look, I thought I was dealing with reasonable people. Okay, things has to be reasonable in order to
So you
find a
think
consensus. Yeah,
You think I'm reasonable?
We're taught. Yeah, it has to be reasonable. And
But do you think I'm reasonable?
what I don't know, I would like to try and find
Let's
out.
find
I don't
out.
know. I don't know your reason. I don't know how. I haven't reasoned with you yet. But I think it would be
Okay.
reasonable if
A person cannot
You s-
be reasonable. An argument can be reasonable. Behavior can be reasonable.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? Davey Little in the chat. 192 debates, plenty of chat, no proof from Globers, none. Who was it? I think it was whenever Quantum Eraser was last in here, and I think it was a baller said, "Oh, I can prove this." Quantum Eraser immediately asked, "Show me a syllogism." Immediately, show me a formal logical syllogism, not a scientific proof. QE knows that the only proof is in logic and maths.
He's not here.
Sorry, that was a bit of a.
Hello,
So
Travis.
if I were to
Hold on 1
have,
second. Hi, Travis. How you doing?
if I were to have sex with a 13-year-old, but I believe she was 20, would I still be a
This
pedophile?
isn't the kind of example I want. Get out.
Who was that?
No,
it's
don't-
absurd.
Don't come here
See,
talking
the
about
level that
paedophilia.
this is just it. This is what they're resorted to. And I hope the public, the people, are paying attention closely to the so-called intelligent people who think they have proven the ball. This is the problem.
What's
They're
your
not
reasonable
reasonable.
question for
They
this
say they
reasonable
like
person
logic.
that's listening
They
to you
say that
recently?
they like reason, but it's none of that. It's everything but reason, everything but logic. And if Ruhif and Was were reasonable, they wouldn't make assertions about the ship going over something without experience or knowing that thing is likely to happen. And they get to say they're experiencing that.
Spurs.
I'm not
Spurs.
sure where you're going, Spurs. Seriously.
Spurs. Do you have DNA?
Right? Yeah, I believe so. That's what science tells us, right? They've tested it. Yes.
You never
Do you know it?
experienced.
Sorry.
You've never experienced it though, yeah?
No, because I haven't tried to test. I wouldn't know. Yeah, you're right. That's right. Yeah. So I take it on faith that the science are telling us what they tell us. But I haven't looked into those things to make any claims. Again, we're not making any claims here. You were the one that is claiming a ship has gone
All
over
right,
something.
Spurs.
That's
Can I ask you something, Spurs?
sure.
So when you see the sun set and it lights up the underneath of the clouds, what do you think's going on there? Have you experienced that before? If not, how would you explain what's going on there?
Well, at that moment, you need technology, you need tools, you need resources. If you haven't
Yeah.
experienced it before, you need to verify it conclusively.
I
Yes,
could explain that.
Right.
but that's what I'm saying. You're gonna if you're gonna make a claim again, it all stems from your claim, the initial claim. If you're going to claim that something is going over something, yes, then we have to verify that initially. Okay, so then
Can you, Spurs? Can you actually
again, it goes
literally
back to the
put
point
words in our
of
mouth?
where have you experienced an atmosphere where you can say, aha, yes, this looks like that. This is similar. I'm not sure, but it looks like that. So therefore, I should be able to calculate. And that's where you bring your math and theories.
I saw it on Billy's planet.
Hang on, I've just joined the call. Can I ask a question?
Hey,
Go
hey,
ahead,
Randy.
Ranty.
Hey,
Yes,
Is that Randy?
Ranty, welcome.
yeah, which
it the real
moron
Randy?
said they wanted to go back and measure the height? Which person suggested that?
Was.
Me.
Was Right.
Yeah.
What's he going to reference to gain his height? Do you think the boats are still going to be there? Because there was nothing else in the foreground for him to measure it to. So he'd just be filming the ocean. Which Burke said they could go back and repeat the observation.
I wasn't saying to repeat the observation. I was just trying to get an idea of his height.
You wouldn't be able to. It would be impossible because there would be nothing
Shut
in the
the
sea.
fuck up,
reference.
bitch! You fucking ass clown, pedophile, child fucking son of a bitch. Fucking
Jeepers.
Who's he talking to?
Jesus.
I don't know. Maybe
Oh,
himself.
probably.
That was
Himself,
the
I
second.
think.
That was the second coming. That one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so essentially that would be, it's impossible to validate. That what the guy should have done originally was just do a panoramic. That would have been so much easier. Panoramic, showing where he was standing. We wouldn't have this argument right now.
No, that'd just be CGI, right?
No, Dranty does it on every call, so it's not like it's difficult to actually get this.
You don't get Aussie humour.
You know, it doesn't take much effort to zoom out and present that. I mean, for all we know, if that has been done, it's just been edited out the footage. We have no idea.
Yeah, probably was actually. Yeah.
Well, can we have
Yeah,
the
I mean,
whole,
essentially
can we
you
have the
might
raw
have that.
footage? Is that a possibility?
You'll have to ask the guy.
Didn't you ask him for it?
I could, yeah.
No. You didn't
be
hear my
reasonable.
question. I'm going to rephrase that. Say it really slowly. Why didn't you ask him for this data, Ruhif?
Because the ship positions have already corroborated where he said he was prior to that.
You've already decided it corroborates it, but you don't seem to be of an investigative mind, though. You don't seem to be inquiring for raw footage. You're not interested. You just take him at his word. He is where he says he is, and his footage is fine, right?
I've corroborated it with the ship
No.
data.
That's not what happened.
Sorry, I'm asking why you haven't asked for the raw footage.
I will if you want, sure.
No. My question is, why haven't you asked for it already? So, if you're saying you're, open-minded investigator and you're interested in finding the truth, I would have expected you to ask him for the raw footage.
I would only need to do that if I thought he was lying. And like I said, the ship data corroborates where he said he was.
Right.
He's
But you've
lying.
taken it on faith.
No reason to ask him.
You've just taken it on faith. You're not assuming he's lying.
No.
Right?
Being
But you don't
corroborated by the
assume...
independent data.
You don't assume
What's
that he's
faith got to do
lying.
with
You
it?
just want to know the truth. He might be incorrect,
faith?
mistaken, wrong. Not saying he's lying, but you want to find out as much about the data as possible, do you not? Clearly not.
He showed me where he was. It was corroborated by the ship data. I believe him.
Yeah, nothing to do with where he was now. We're on to something else. There's raw footage, potentially, with more data.
Yeah.
But you haven't asked him for it. You've just taken him at his word about what he's already presented in isolation.
No. Have you not heard me 3 times say the ship data corroborates where he said he was?
Have you not heard me say raw footage? I do love these little silences. Oh, it wasn't a protracted silence. It was my entire panel getting kicked by a sniper. Wonderful.
Right.
Are we gonna
Well, it
blow
is
up?
also. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go on.
No, essentially, it's the same thing with that guy from Scotland, Al Kay, and Miles Davis, when they did the observation of the wind farms. And then Miles Davis presented it fully zoomed in without any corroborating data. And then about 2 or 3 weeks later, they released additional footage to show the tide height at that time. But we had to argue with them to get them to release that. And
Right.
essentially, if they'd have just done that straight away, we'd have known immediately what the tide data was, everything.
We've got nothing. We've got no data. We've got no tide data. I don't know what time it was taken. I've not seen any raw footage. We've not seen anything. But yet the Globe side are happy with everything he's presented so far. It's all good. It's all corroborated by him and his word. Wonderful. Really great investigation on the Globe side. But of course he's presenting Globe proof, so no need to question it.
Well, it just shows the level of indoctrination that's going on. They would literally just take anyone's word for it. But that's what we're saying. These people have never experienced anything of what they're speaking about. I think that's an important point. They didn't even want to answer it because it means they would have to admit, live here, yeah, we have an experience. I don't know why I presumed it was going over something. So I think it's going to be a lot of self-reflecting from a lot of these ballers when they start to realise they just accept what they were told. And slowly, I think they'll come around. I think Rufus will come around slowly, but surely. I think a lot of people will. It's a big shock. And a lot of people don't realize that the Earth has never been proven through science. That's a big shock in itself. Oh, he's in the chat there. Oh, he said he asked me a direct question. What direct question?
See, the ballers are so far behind on doing experiments because they've never had to do experiments in the past. Whereas the flat earthers have always had to conduct experiments and live up to scrutiny. So they're the ones that have had this trial and error, with doing your panoramic, giving you tide data, giving you elevation above sea level, all this kind of stuff to corroborate the observation. And the ballers have never had to do that, and because they're having to counteract the amount of flat Earth proof that's coming, they're going out and doing their own observations, and they're doing the same things that we were making mistakes on 2 years ago.
Right.
It's like they've just started off. Like, we can now go to them and say, okay, then, well, where's the panoramic? How high was your tripod? Where was your elevation? Where's the GPS coordinates?
Mm-hmm.
Was it warm on the day? Was it cold? What was the temperature? What was the, just all kinds of data that you would need to ask that you can provide, that we do provide now, and they're still catching up now with this. So this is just basically a slap in the face to them to say, look, wake up. Next time you get an observation like this, show the data, because if you can't prove the data, it's like having a monopoly £10 note and going into a pub and trying to buy a pint with it. It's never going to work. It's not going to pass muster.
Hello again.
Hello.
Hey, you're back.
Hello. So there's a lack of data. They took offence to me saying it, unbelievably, and then you go, well, where have you got your data from? I just took him at his word. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, the thing is, though, could you imagine if the flat earther said that? Let's suppose he filmed across a desert and he said, 100 miles of flat desert, right? And he was just zoomed in fully on a desert, right? And then he presented that as 100 miles of flat earth proof. Do you think the ballers would just believe that?
Well, they'd just go and ask him, right? Was it all flat, mate? It was. Wicked. I've gone and checked it on these maps that we debunked several shows ago. I've gone and checked the elevation on Google Earth. Oh, right. So why was I running tape measures down hills exactly? What was that all about again? Because we just use Ordnance Survey, do we? Oh, right. Well, why was Ordnance Survey wrong? I don't get it. Why was Google wrong? Why are we using these references? I assume this is where they've hidden the curvature that they tell us we've got and haven't. Right, in the sea level that goes up and down. Shock horror. In all sorts of different globe datums. What a shock. Yeah, they've hidden it. They've fudged all the figures, given you different reference points, told you the sea is at different heights. On the globe model of Earth, according to Google Earth, you're miles below sea level when the sea level's right in front of you. And on Ordnance Survey, it's massively above where it is. And so it goes on. If you look at WGS 84, it says it's one place. If you look at the Russian one, it's somewhere else. You know, none of them want to actually refer to the fact that we have a sea level. But it's all level.
See, and part of the indoctrination. I mean, I'm not directly saying that Rufus was indoctrinated. I mean, I wouldn't know how to describe it, but but part of the indoctrination is also saying that flat earthers know nothing. That we're supposed to be morons, and when a ball earther, directly challenges a flat earther, I think it's a shock to their system, because the flat earther is giving answers, they're replying, they're very rational, they're reasonable and logical, and that is part of the indoctrination also, is telling the ball earthers, these guys don't know anything. So when other people hear, oh, how do these people believe it's flat? They say, oh, I would like to meet a flat earther and discuss with a flat earther. And then they see that it's not what they thought. And then this is why I say people like Rufus and Was, they're slowly but surely coming around, because they're seeing that what we heard, what we were told is not, what it is or what it was. These guys are speaking. These guys seem to understand science, the world, or where they live, a bit better than what we do. And another point I just wanted to touch on is about the model, predictions. The whole idea of a prediction is to know something, to apply something in order to do something. So I've suggested that the ancients didn't just have a model to predict, to know where the stars, the sun, the moon, the direction. They applied it to the buildings that they designed, that they built. And it just seems that we have a model. I've asked ballers many a time, what are the predictions for? What do you need to know about the model, the cosmos, that will change your life? And what I had an answer, the weather. He was saying that his life is operated, or he makes predictions, so his life is ran by the weather. This doesn't make sense. You just wouldn't have a model solely to predict if it's going to rain or be sunny next week. Okay, so this is another reason why I think a lot of the ballers are confused with this whole model and predictions understanding. The predictions that this model predicts are for no reason. They don't seem to make sense. They just seem to. I would like a baller to actually explain to me this prediction, why they need predictions, whereas I feel the ancients, they predicted for a reason. They needed to know. Because some type of either energy source or something.
Guys.
Yeah, it's difficult to know, it's difficult to say, but they were predicting for a particular reason, whereas we're predicting for something that we don't know why. Yes. So.
Yeah, and I would like to add that if you watch the beginning of the Hangout, I at least do actually understand their model, and I'd actually basically started to figure out how it is supposed to work, applying known facts about physical sciences. And I scrutinized their model, proving that I do, in fact, know science and maybe not be the calculus champion in the world, but I still know how physical science works. And I do understand their model. And I scrutinized it, and then I found a flaw in the system. And I presented it. So we do actually understand science, and we do understand your model.
But Armin, what do they mean then when they speak about predictions? To predict something for what purpose?
Well, when they say predictions, they basically mean predict according to their model to prove that their model is correct. So assuming that just their predictions will prove that their model is the reality, doesn't really mean that it is proof. It is evidence. So it seems to indicate that it could be true until you basically prove where it does not fit reality. And then
no, but I want to focus on the predictions. No. Do the predictions have an application? Can you apply them to the real world?
Of course they do, Spurs. Take the weather, for example.
But that's it. Do you live your life? Is the whole model, the whole cosmos mapped out in order for you to know the weather?
Some people need the weather. Their lives depend on it.
So this is what I'm trying to understand. So you're saying the predictions are solely for weather forecasts?
No. Some
No,
predictions are.
the Earth model is not related to the weather forecast. Those are other
Now
elements.
you see the problem that we're having here with this, and this is where borders kind of think they have one up with this. It makes predictions, it works, and this type of language. And I'm thinking,
Their
well,
star
why-
system, the way they made the model for the heavens, that does predictions in the sense that it is adapted to the cosmology model of the angular relations of the heaven in accordance to the Earth, and then their model does account for those predictions, but it doesn't necessitate for all of that to be the universe out there and everything.
Hey, donuts
That's
of fun. How you
grafted
doing?
on.
Can you hear us?
It's added on, just
Yeah.
like gravitational pull is a scientism concept grafted on to the constant of gravity, which is just a simple measurable concept.
well, look, Rufus and Woz would like to return. I don't know if it's possible.
I'm here,
Nathan?
Spurs.
He's here.
Oh, they're here. Oh, excellent.
I think
Okay.
whoever blocked them also banned them, so they've just had to change accounts.
Yeah.
But
Okay, so you've heard us speaking about these predictions. How do you understand these predictions? What are their uses, and how do you apply them?
Predictions
Me?
confirm the model. Like you make a prediction with the model that you hypothesized, and
Mhm.
if your observations then match that prediction, it further confirms the model.
so you presuppose the model, and then Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, didn't we Google
That was my
hypothesis
point
last night,
exactly.
Nathan?
Mm. So the predictions themselves do not actually have an application. They just confirm whether you're right or wrong. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sure you can find areas of science where they
That's what we're trying to find
have
out.
an
That's
application.
what I've been calling for.
Oh,
I've been putting the call
I
out
can't-
is to find out what how are they used. If
Well, I can't think of
they're
one off the
just
top of my head.
to prove something, well, that would be a bit suspicious and iffy if it's just to confirm and prove the model. Because all you'd have to do is make observations and know the path of any object, and that wouldn't really be considered a prediction. Yes. So you have to be more specific when you say predictions. You still there?
No, I don't know how, but they've got sniped. No one joined. Amazing.
How have they
That's
got?
fine. Well, I mean, I don't know. You probably could have answered. I'm not sure.
They really don't want people in that panel, do they?
I know, it's
Well,
amazing,
they're
isn't it?
they're making tits of themselves. To be fair, I mean, when they said that they could go and remeasure the height, they've got nothing to measure it to. There is nothing in the foreground or the background. They could literally just go to any piece of the ocean and film it. That's all they will see.
Yeah, that's why I asked him
Oh.
if he'd seen the raw footage.
Yeah, I mean, so no wonder they're being sniped out. They're making complete Burks of themselves.
Well, I'm not going to make a new hangout. We've only got 5 minutes left.
Okay.
Right. Well, I'm gonna drop because I have to. I'm gonna go and buy something. Xbox X.
I would like, if you wouldn't mind, Spurs, can you just summarise your point about why you would assume a curve?
Right. So again, they assume that something has gone. See, again, I get confused at the point when they say something has gone. Okay, it's disappeared. Okay, so now we have to find out why, and they assume that because it's disappeared bottom first, that it has to be going over curvature. So the question I'm asking is where is the experience of that happening, where they can compare like the two? Say, look here, this is what happens, and then you look here, and this is also what's happening. So the starting point is very key. To go from ship disappearing to curvature is a big leap for me anyway. Okay. You all done?
Yeah, they base it on a model that assumes the Earth is a sphere to begin with, and then everything they talk about from there on in is based on that model. You know, they're never actually referencing anything in physical reality. They never have any proof to present. They've never actually done any measurements. It's just, it works based on what our model says. And it's the other way around. The model has co-opted reality, and stolen all the things we see in terms of perspective, which is what's on screen right now, an effect of perspective, not an effect of curvature. But if you can calculate the effect of things going away and getting smaller, and in this instance being obscured from the bottom up, then you can co-opt that with a mathematical formula to make it work on a sphere. Simple as that. They've co-opted perspective and called it curvature. It's nonsense.
Exactly.
There's no reason
Exactly,
to make
yeah.
this assumption. No reason whatsoever. There's no evidence to back it up at all. Just the model. That's all they've got.
Precisely. Which is why, I take them back to that first point: is what experience do you have of that? Let me see what you saw. Show what you have experienced to compare the two, and they can't do that. So yeah, I will finish with that.
Nathan, question. In that video you just shown,
Yeah?
But obviously this model is not correct because it's supposed to be a spheroid.
Got about a minute left if anyone wants to round anything up. No, just lots of rumblings.
No. I mean, again, just for those guys to think about is why they think the things that they think. Rufus, he tried to pull the "I don't understand" or a little bit lost card, which is understandable. Okay, he understood it very well because he's now thinking, well, why did I think that? Why did I think the ships disappeared? What has made me? Where have I seen that before? That something has disappeared over curvature like that. And that's why he was lost, or he claimed he was lost, or claimed he didn't understand, because then he had to start to think, probably for the first time. He never thought of it like that before. So yeah, that's me. I'm going to drop out now anyway. So good show, good stuff. I'll see you next time.
See you next time, Spurs. Absolute pleasure. And I think with that, I will say, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live panel for joining the discussion and making this debate possible. Also, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you've not done so already, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!